friends, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to day 7 of Bookmas. In today's video, I'm going to be doing an end of the year book tag. I'm basically just going to be answering a bunch of questions about my reading year and the books that I read this year. So I went ahead and wrote down a list of questions that I want to answer. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the first question, which is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? And I normally don't like to be in the middle of multiple books or multiple shows at once. Like when I start something, I usually have to finish it before I move on to the next book or the next show or whatever. Honestly, I feel like that has been putting me in a bit of a slump lately. So this year I told myself that I need to have a book that I can go to at all times. That way I'm not just stuck in the same book, because when I get stuck in the same book and if I'm having trouble getting through it, that is how I usually get in a reading slump. So throughout this year, I've actually been reading Little Woman. I do need to finish it by the end of the year. I think I'm like 30% into it. I just read a couple of chapters here and there whenever I'm not feeling any of the books that I'm currently reading. So that's the book that I've been going to all year. I definitely want to finish it by the end of the year, and I definitely want to watch that movie as well. And then there's actually a second book that I started at the beginning of this year, but I don't think I'm going to finish it this year because it's a little more on the difficult side of language and it's a very long book, and that is this book. I really don't know how to pronounce any of that, so I'm just going to put the picture here. I don't think I'm going to finish that this year, but I definitely want to get back into that at some point because it definitely had a lot of good writing in it and I was enjoying it while I was reading it. I just kind of hit a wall with it, but I definitely want to get back to that book at some point. And then the second question is, what's a book you're reading to transition into the end of the year? The book I'm going to read to kind of transition to the end of the year is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. This is a holiday Christmas romance, and I absolutely love Christina Lauren's writing. So I'm definitely going to kick off my festive reading for the end of the year with In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I've heard really good things about this book and it sounds really cute, so I can't wait to get to that one. And then the next question is 3 books that I absolutely want to read before the end of the year. The first one I have is Red Rising and then Mistborn. These are both on my 2025 books that I want to read in 2025, and I haven't got to these yet, and I definitely want to get to these ones before the end of the year. This one is the start of a sci-fi fantasy. This one is the start of a YA fantasy. I'm so excited to start both of these. I've heard literally nothing but good things about both of them, and I feel like I've been saying that I wanted to read them for a very long time, so I really just need to read them this month. And then the last one that I want to give a try before the end of the year is Bag of Bones by Stephen King. The back of this says it's a haunted love story, so I feel like that sounds really good. I'm gonna give it a try. If I'm not vibing with it, I'm not gonna be too harsh on if I want to DNF it or not, because I just don't know if I am gonna enjoy it or not. I don't really read this genre often, but I definitely want to give it a shot. And then the next question says, are there any books that may potentially shock you and become your favorite right before the end of the year? And I honestly don't know. My favorite book of the year so far is pretty like high above all the other books that I've read this year. And I honestly don't know if there's anything on my TBR right now that could potentially match it. But if there are any books that could potentially be my favorite before the end of the year, I think I would go with Red Rising by Pierce Brown. The amount of people that I have seen crying to this book is actually insane. So I feel like this one could potentially shock me and become one of my favorites before the year is over. The next question is, what genre did you read the most of this year? And I feel like this one is no surprise, but the genre I read most of was romance. My Goodreads says that I've read a total of 23 romances. I feel like it's a little higher than that. I feel like I'm missing some books off of my Goodreads, so I feel like it's a little higher than that, but I definitely know that romance is what I've read the most of this year, and I'm honestly not surprised by that whatsoever. Romance and fantasy are my top 2 categories, and it definitely shows. The next question is my favorite book of the year. I would say my favorite book of the year is Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I just connected to that writing so much, and there were so many beautiful quotes and messages, and like the storyline was just so well planned, and I really enjoyed that book. Nothing has topped it for me this year, and I don't know if anything will. But an honorable mention that I have also is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I finished this book recently and I seriously have not been able to stop thinking about it, and I seriously want to go around and tell every single person to read this book. It is such an intricately woven, detailed like fantasy. It is so good. There is so much to keep up with, but it's basically a framed narrative, and the innkeeper is telling a story of who he was in the past and like what he's known for, but he's telling the story to like a well-known storyteller, so he knows that the storyteller is gonna do it right. Otherwise he wouldn't have done the story. But the story of his life that he's telling this guy, it's so insane. But it would jump back in with the present timeline and then like things going on around the end in between like his storytelling. It was so good, and I seriously recommend everyone to read that book. Although it is an unfinished series, so beware with that. I didn't know that going into it, and definitely hurts knowing that now. Any new favorite authors? I actually feel like I did find a new favorite author this year. For one, I have really been loving Leigh Bardugo's writing. I've also really been loving Alex Astor's writing. I found Alex Astor this year and Leigh Bardugo, and then Patrick Rothfuss. Again, I love his writing style. I want to read the rest of that series that's published. I think those are like the big three new authors that I really enjoyed this year. There's Leigh Bardugo, Alex Astor, and Patrick Rothfuss. Oh, and Frederick Bachman. I read my first Frederick Bachman this year and I absolutely loved it. So those four. And then the next question is favorite series that you read this year. I'm gonna say that my favorite series was the Six of Crows duology. I loved that book. I love those characters. It was so different from what I normally read, and I just had a blast with reading it. Leigh Bardugo seriously just is so descriptive in the best way possible. So I had such a blast with the Six of Crows duology. Next question is any disappointments from this year? I would say I had 3 big disappointments this year with my reading. The first one was Releasing 10 by Chloe Walsh. I just did not connect to the story whatsoever, and I feel like the spice was just overdone in this book. Same thing with Reckless by Elsie Silver. This book felt very surface level to me, and I feel like it was just a bunch of tropes shoved into this book. I really didn't feel any connection to these characters, and I feel like these characters didn't really have a emotional connection, and that's a big thing for me, is the emotional connection. And then the last one that was kind of a disappointment is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved the beautiful writing in this book. She has a way with words for sure. However, I just did not care for the interview story that was being told, and that was a big chunk of that story. I just felt so disconnected from that interview, like within the first 30% of that interview. Like it got very repetitive and just not very important. So those are my 3 big disappointments from 2025. And the next question is, were there any books that surprised you? I would say there's 2 books that surprised me, but I read The Things We Water by Mariana Zapata, which is a slow burn werewolf romance, and I absolutely loved it. I ate that book up. I thought it was so good. The banter was so good. The way that she strings you along till the very end for these characters to even kiss is just insane. She does such a good job at that. And then the other one that surprised me was Atonement of the Spine Cleaver by Effie Bryce. This one was really good and I really enjoyed it. I really want to continue that series. I feel like I was pretty invested in the storylines and all the different POVs and everything and all the different outcomes. So I definitely would want to continue that series. It definitely surprised me as well. I was actually told to read that book by one of my TikTok followers, so that one felt really good to enjoy. And then we have 2 more questions. The first one is, did I hit my 2025 reading goal, or am I on a trajectory to hit it? I think I'll be able to finish it by the end of the year. I've currently read about like 62 books and I need 75 by the end of the year. So I have about a month to read 13 books, and I feel like with all the holiday books that I plan on reading that I'll definitely be able to hit it. I feel like with the holiday books, my December TBR, and a couple of books that I really want to read before the end of the year, I think I'll be able to hit it no problem. So definitely plan on hitting it by the end of the year. I have about a month to read 13 books. That should be easy. And then the last question is, what is my 2026 reading goal? I think that with my reading goal being 75 books this year and me planning on hitting that, I feel like I had a lot of free time this year to scroll on my phone, do whatever I want. I think I should be able to up my reading goal by at least 25 books. So I think for 2026, my reading goal is going to be 100, and I'm doing that in order to get me off my phone. I spend way too much time scrolling my phone, and I think if I raise the stakes for my reading goal this year, I will spend a lot more time in the books and way less time on my phone. That's the goal, at least. That's what I'm hoping for, but that's what I'm going to set my reading goal for 2026 is 100 books. So hopefully I can hit that. That does bring us to the end of my end of the year book tag, all of the questions that I wanted to answer. And if you have any other questions for me, please comment below what they are. I would love to answer them. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check back in tomorrow for another Bookmas video. Bye!